Hello, sewing people of the internet. A friend of mine recently gave me an old sail from their sailboat to try some sewing projects with. Here's a little pouch I made just to try it out. So today I thought I would try to make something a little bit more involved, and probably a year or 2 or 3 ago, someone recommended this book to me. I don't have a boat, although I'm interested in sailboats, but probably not enough to ever actually buy one. I've done a little tiny bit of sailing when I was younger and stuff. But the reason this book was recommended to me is it has a fairly comprehensive section on sewing. This book is not inexpensive. I don't remember what I paid for it, but if you can find it at a used bookstore or a thrift store or something, I'm pretty sure a lot of people buy this book with grand plans to buy and restore a sailboat, and they never do and donate it to a thrift store. So if you can find one inexpensively, it might be a good sewing resource for you to check out. One of the sewing projects in the book is a tote bag. I thought that might be a good project to use some sailcloth on, being that sailcloth is heavy and durable. It'd be just the right thing for maybe a bag to take to a farmer's market or grocery shopping or something. This is not a tutorial on how to make this bag, and I'm not going to show too much of the information in the book for copyright reasons. But you should get a general idea how to make a bag like this if you follow along with this video. If you have questions or comments, ask them in the comment section. Let's get started. By the way, I've been using the term sailcloth as if that's one thing, but I'm pretty sure sails are made from several different materials. I believe this is Dacron, but I'm not 100% sure, so if you decide to make something out of a sail that you've obtained somewhere, the material may be different and your results may vary. So I'm making this bag about 10 inches by 10 inches by 10 inches. And in order to get to that dimension, I've cut a piece that's 21 inches wide, so that's 20 inches plus a half-inch seam allowance on each side. And then it's 34 inches high. And the mathematics of how this works are a bit beyond me, but I'm just going by how the book said to do it. So basically you have this rectangle. I'm going to fold it on its long side. You just fold it right in half. And then I'm going to sew down these sides. So the way the book has this being done is applying edge binding to the seams that we've just sewn, and I think the binding that they are talking about is different from what I have, and I should have thought about this earlier. So I've sewn a half-inch seam on this, but I actually probably need to cut this down to about 1/4 of an inch in order for my binding to cover the stitch line, which is how it should be, so that's what I'm going to do. I have my binding attachment set up on my other machine, so I'm just going to do that over here. The binding I'm using is mil-spec 4088 1-inch binding. It's a nylon webbing. Should have started a little bit from the edge here so I could tuck the ends here, but I'm going to just do that now. I just folded the edges under here to make this more finished on this side. I'm not going to do that over here because this corner is about to get cut off, so there's no point. I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, but here's where we're cutting out these corners. And it says, cut square notches at the corners at the folded edge, making their equal sides 1/2 inch less than half the narrower bottom dimension. I don't get it. So to a rough approximation, this bag is about 20 inches wide. It's not exactly, but whatever. A quarter of 20 is 5 inches. So I'm gonna go 5 inches in and 5 inches up and see if that makes sense. I'm kind of fudging this a little bit. Okay, that's darn near perfect. That looks about like what the picture looked like. So then the next step is to flatten this out. And sew these down. So instead of sewing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, which is what the book called for, and then trimming it down to a 1/4 inch in order to use the binding I'm using, I'm just going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. The proportions of this bag will be altered slightly, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. That didn't come out perfectly even for some reason, but again, I don't think it's going to matter. I'll just trim that off before I bind it. So I've turned the bag right side out and just double folded a hem on the top, and I'm going to sew that down. In case you're wondering, this machine does not have reverse, so I'm just manually back stitching to lock the stitch in. where this bound edge is on either side, with that folded over twice, it's just way too thick for the machine to sew over. So, got a little problem here that I'm going to have to deal with. I think what I'm going to do is just sew as close as I can to the binding here, and then do some perpendicular stitches to hold that, and that should hold it in place. So the way the book has the handles is pieces of webbing that go all the way around and then loop around and connect on the bottom. That's a lot of webbing, and I don't really want to waste it for this bag that I don't really need. I was just making it because I thought it might be interesting. So I have some scrap webbing. I'm just going to make some handles and just box X them on the sides. I think that'll be fine. If you haven't picked up on it by now, this is not a project that I put a lot of thought or effort into, but had I been thinking a little bit more, I probably should have put these handles on the part of the bag where the seam isn't, just because it would look nicer. So there you go, a tote bag made out of an old sail. I don't know if I would say that this was, let's see, how do I put this? This is a pretty easy project. There's a couple of things I would probably do differently if I really wanted a tote bag. Folding this edge over with binding, at least the binding that I'm using, the sailcloth I'm using, made this impossible to sew across, and I have pretty capable machines. In any event, I'd probably do something different with that. I'm of the opinion that if you're learning to sew or you want to practice, the best way to do that is to actually sew stuff, not just to sew scraps together. So this might be a good project for you to try. And also, if you need a tote bag, it's a tote bag. If you have any questions or comments, post them in the comments section below. If you like what I'm doing, clicking like really helps a lot. If you are sheltering in place because of COVID-19, stay safe, and hopefully we'll all get through this soon. If you're not a subscriber, think about subscribing, and thanks for watching.